Assalamualaikum to our lecturer, Sir Abdul Hadi bin Ahmad. We are from Group 5. Today, we want to present about practical completion issue. And now, I want to introduce our group members, which is Nur Haniza binti Samsudin, Farisa Izzati binti Khairul Nizam, Muhammad Airi Helmi bin Razak, Muhammad Azami bin Muhammad Azban Bong, and Mirza Muhaimin bin Muhammad Tamizi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Farisa Izzati binti Khairul Nizam, student ID 2024-671-794. And I would like to begin this presentation with introduction. So, background of the study. Practical completion is the single most important milestone in any construction contract. So for the client, it means they can finally take possession of the asset and begin using it. For the contractors, it triggers the release of 50% of the retention money that's been held as security. And from a legal and contractual standpoint, it's a hard stop and a new start. It ends the contractor's liability for delay penalties, and it starts the clock on the defects liability period, or DLP, which it is a critical window for fixing any minor issues. For objective of the study, the concept of practical completion is clear, but on real construction sites, its application is anything. It consistently becomes a flashpoint for disputes, delays, and also financial disagreements. There is a clear gap between the contract doctrine and on-the-ground reality. So, our research is designed with 3 clear goals to bridge this gap. The first one is we will identify the real-world practical problems that hinder PC certification. The second one is we will analyze these problems against these specific terms of standard construction contracts. And the last one is we will compare our findings with actual nation court rulings to see how the law interprets these conflicts. So for company background, to conduct this investigation, we will use a detailed case study focused on Syahidmah Construction and Engineering Sendirian Berhad. They are an established Bumi Putra contractor with a CIDP G6 registration, which qualifies them to undertake projects valued up to 10 million ringgit. Our specific case is their project cadangan menaik taraf gerai sedia ada di Taman Alam Perdana Melaka. This was an 18-month upgrade project with a contract value of 5.03 million ringgit. This real-world project served as our primary lens by examining the practical completion issues encountered here. We can bridge 3 critical perspectives, which are on the set challenges, the contractual interpretation, and also the legal precedents within the Malaysian construction industry.
Assalamualaikum, and my name is Hairi Helmi bin Razak. I'm from class 5G. Today I would like to present a project overview, the type of project, the contract value and contract duration, contract commencement and of a contract form, parties involved. Last but not least is project milestone and current status. First is the project overview. This section provides an overview of the project in terms of its nature, contractual value and duration, as well as the applicable contract form and commencement provisions. 2.1 Type of project. Commercial infrastructure improvement project. The project is classified as a commercial infrastructure improvement project involving the upgrading and enhancement of existing food and retail stall at Taman Alam Perdana Melaka. The development form part of a small-scale commercial revitalization initiative aimed at improving public business space, supporting micro and small enterprise, and enhancing user comfort and functionally for both vendors and customers. 2.2 As a contract value and contract durations, moderate scale project with a defined cost and durations. The contract value for the project is approximately 5 million and 330,000 with a contractual duration of 18 months, which is 1 years and something, while the project was generally implemented within the planned time frame. Minor delays were experienced due to change in material specification initiated by the client, which slightly affected the completion period. 2.3 is contract commencement and contract form. We are using a PWD standard form of the contract governing commencement and execution. The project was executed under the PWD form of the contract, with the contract commencement taking effect from the date of the letter of acceptance or the opposition of sites, whichever occur later. From the commencement date, the contractor was contractually obligated to commence the works and complete the project within the stipulated 18-month period, subject to provision relating to variation, existing extension of time and other contractual condition under the PWD contract. Next is parties involved, client, the majlis Madam Malaikat bersedarah, and the architect from Norman Selamat, the civil and structure from Iras Perunding. Last but not least is QS, ARRQS Konsultasi dan Berhad. Last but not least is project milestone and current status. Project milestone and construction stages. The project was carried out based on an approved construction program under the PWD formal contract, with a clearly defined milestone to ensure systematic implementation and effective progress control. The key stage included the site projection and preliminary works, demolition, and preparation of existing structural upgrading works, architectural finishing, mechanical and electrical installation, roofing works, and final inspection and testing prior to completion. Current project status: the project has fully completed and has achieved a particular completion, resulting in issuance of the CPC. All construction works were executed in accordance with approved drawing, specification, and contractual requirement, and the complete facility meets required functional and quality standard for commercial completion. Lastly is a plan versus with actual progress. Overall, the actual progress of the project closely follow the plan construction schedule. Most activity would complete within the stipulated time frame, and project performance remain generally consistent with approved program. Minor issues were encountered during the roofing work prior and issuance of CPC. However, these issues were resolved within, causing significant delay to the overall project completion. Further details on these issues are discussed in section 3 of this report. I will pass to Hazab to continue the present. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Mirza Muhammad bin Muhammad Tamizi. So for this slide, I will explain the definition of practical completion under PWD Form 203A. Practical completion is a major milestone in a construction contract because it marks the transition from the construction phase to the completion of post-construction phase. Under the Malaysian Standard Form of Contract, especially PWD Form 203A 2010, practical completion refers to the stage where the works have been substantially completed in accordance with the contract. At this point, the employee is able to occupy and use the building for instead the purpose, even though there may still be some minor defects or non-critical works remaining. It is important to note that the PWD from 203A does not provide a strict definition of practical completion. Instead, its meaning has developed through the industry practice, contract interpretation, and court decision. Generally, practical completion does not require the works to be perfect in every detail. What matters is that the works are safe, functioning, and suitable for use. Under the clause 39 of PWD, the superintending officer has the authority to certify practical completion once certified that the works are substantially completed. This certification has significant contractual effects. It ends the contractor obligation to complete the works within the contract period, stop the imposition of LAD, and marks the beginning of the defect liability period, DLP. In this slide, explain the key event that lead to the practical completion. Practical completion is not achieved suddenly, but through a sequence of contractual and technical process. The first event is when the works are nearing completion. At this stage, all the major construction activities should have been completed according to the contract drawings, specification and bills of quantity. Only minor defects or finishing works should remain, and this must not affect the safety or functionality of the building. The next important event is the inspection by the architect or consultant acting as the superintending officer or SO under the clause 39 of PWD. The contractor must notify the SO that the works are ready for inspection, and the SO will then inspect the works to assess workmanship quality, compliance with the contract requirements and the overall fitness for the intended purpose. Another critical event is testing and commissioning. Modern buildings involve mechanical, electrical and specialist systems that must be tested to ensure the safe and operational. If the testing and commissioning are incomplete or unsatisfactory, the SO may delay the certification of practical completion. Therefore, successfully testing, proper documentation and compliance with contractual procedure are essential before the practical completion can be achieved. For this slide, I will discuss the common issue encountered before the certification of practical completion. Even when the contractor believes that the works are complete, several problems may prevent the superintending officer from issuing the certificate of practical completion. One common issue is the presence of minor defect. This usually relates to the workmanship or finishing issue that may be acceptable at the practical completion, if they do not affect the safety or usability. However, dispute may arise if there is disagreement over whether the defects are truly minor. Incomplete works are more serious issue. If essential works or systems have not been completed, the SO is justified in refusing to certify the CPC, especially if the incompleteness affects the intended use of the building. Another major issue is the outstanding testing, commissioning or statutory approvals. A building may appear physically complete, but without approval from the relevant authorities like BOMBA or final test result, it may not be legally or safely occupied. Finally, unresolved contractual correspondence such as site memo, architect instruction or email or dispute variation can delay the certification. Therefore, the superintending officer must exercise professional judgment to ensure that all technical and administrative issues are sufficiently resolved before certifying the practical completion.
My name is Muhammad Azami bin Muhammad Azman Bong, and now I want to present about diagnosis of practical completion issue. First is identification of practical completion issue. For our case study, cadangan menaik taraf geras sedia ada ditamak oleh Perdana Melaka. The main issue affecting the practical completion was incomplete roofing works. The roofing system was a critical part of the project. During construction, the contractor discovered that the specified roofing material was difficult to obtain because it was only available from overseas suppliers. The issue was discussed with the client and architect. A formal application for material changes was later submitted on 19 February 2024 by the contractor. The approval process took a time because it involved design changes, color selection and coordination with the client, architect and MBMB. Final approval was only granted on 2 April 2024, so during this period, the roofing work could not be proceeded without approval. So, as a result, the roof was incomplete when practical completion was expected. Other works such as internal finishes, inspection, and testing could not be continued. There were no major workmanship defects, but the incomplete roof prevented practical completions. The contractor applied for a EOT due to the approval delays rather than contractor performance. So next is contractual clauses related to the practical completions. Under PWD form, standard form, practical completion is stated mainly by clause 39. Clause 39.9 states that the contractor must complete all works by the date for completions or within any approved EOT. Once the work are completed and fit for their intended use, the SO will issue the Certificate of Practical Completion, also known as CPC. At this stage, all major works must be completed and only minor defects are allowed. Next is extension of time, clause 43. If practical completion cannot be achieved within original contract period due to reasons beyond the contractor's control, clause 43 allows the contractor to apply for an extension of time, also known as EOT. Under clause 43.1f, delays caused by late instruction, drawings, approval by the SO or employee are valid grounds for EOT, provided the contractor submit a proper written applications. Next is variation, clause 24. Clause 24.1 covers variations. Any changes to materials or design must be formally instructed through a variation order by the SO. Works carried out without approval may be considered non-compliant and can delay the issuance of the CPC. Therefore, delays in approving variation can directly affect the practical completions. And now is the causes of practical completion issue. The main causes of the practical completion issue for the project cadangan menaik taraf gerai sedada di Taman Alam Perdana Melaka was related to the changes in the roofing material. The roofing material specified in the contract was difficult to obtain because it was only available from overseas suppliers. So this situation was beyond the contractor's control and affected the planning and scheduling of the roofing systems. Another major cause was the delay in approval from the client. The contractor submitted a formal application for the material changes on 19 February 2024, but the approval process took a long time because the client and the MBMB need to review the design, color scheme and the technical specifications. So, the final approval was only granted on 2 April 2024. Next is the design changes. This also contribute to the delay. The initial roofing design required 8 layers, which increased the complexity and the cost. So the manufacturer later revised the design into 3 layers, but this revision still required a formal approval before the work could proceed. And the last one is administrative procedures. Administrative procedures such as variation order could not be skipped. These processes delay the start of the roofing works, but were necessary to avoid future disputes. So overall, the delay was caused by material issues, approval delays, design changes, and administrative procedures, most of which were beyond the contractor's control. Next is the implication of the delay in achieving practical completions. The delay in achieving practical completions for the project cadangan menaik taraf gerai sedada di Taman Alam Perdana Melaka had several important implications. Firstly, it affected the overall project schedule. Roofing works were part of the critical activities. So, other activities like internal finishes, electrical works, and the final inspection cannot be started until the roof was completed. This disrupted the construction sequence and extended the project timeline. Next, from a contractual perspective, the delay required an EOT. Even though the contractor was not at fault, formal documentation was necessary to protect against liquidated ascertained damages, also known as LED. Next, from a financial perspective, if the construction was delayed, the cost also will be increased. Additional site supervisions, labor, equipment rentals, and the variation order for roofing changes also added to the project budget. And lastly, the delay affected the stakeholder confidence. Client noticed slower progress, coordination with authorities was affected, and the handover of the project will be postponed. So it will impacting the business operations. So in conclusions, the delay influenced by the project durations, contractual obligations, costs, stakeholder relationships. Also, it highlights the importance of timely approvals, effective coordinations, and proactive communication to reduce the impact of the unforeseen delays.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Haniza binti Shamsuddin. I will continue the presentation about my part. Okay. This slide discuss the case of Kerajaan Malaysia versus Global Upline Sdn Bhd, which is an important Malaysian Court of Appeal decision on practical completion. In this case, the contractor argued the Section 1 of the project was practically complete, even though some minor defect and small unfinished work remain. However, the government refused to issue the certificate of practical completion, imposed liquidated damage, and later terminated the contract. The key legal issue was whether completion requires perfect completion or whether practical completion is sufficient. The Court of Appeal decided the completion should be interrupted in a practical and commercial manner. Minor defect or small outstanding works do not prevent practical completion as long as the building can be safely and effectively used for its intended purpose. The court also confirmed that defects should normally be dealt with during the defect liability period, not used as a reason to deny CPC, which is Certificate Practical Completion. This case is important because it clarifies that completion is a matter of fact and degree, and it protects contractors from unfair refusal of CPC due to minor defects. So that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Next, I will continue this presentation with comparative analysis between project and case law. For similarities, both situations share the same core dispute, a disagreement over whether practical completion had been achieved due to outstanding minor works or defects. It was classic debate over what constitutes a minor versus a substantial issue. So the key parallels are striking in both instances. The first one is client changes or late approvals affected the timeline. The second one is the central conflict was whether outstanding items were minor or substantial. And the third one is the dispute was about much more than just the work. It was about triggering major contractual consequences, which is the release of retention, the end of delay penalties, and also the start of the defect liabilities period. For differences, the first one is Syedma was a smaller local authority project, while Global Outline involved major federal public works. Second, Syedma's issue were resolved administratively through project protocols. In stark contrast, the Global Outline dispute escalated to contract termination and full litigation. The third one is procedure different. Syedma used a PWD contract focused on whole project completion. Meanwhile, the case involved sectional completion, adding another layer of complexity. And the last one is the trigger. For Syedma, it was a delay in certification. In Global Outline, the employer triggered a full contract termination. Next, for legal principles applied, practical completion means substantially complete and fit for a purpose. Despite minor defects, perfection is not the legal standard. The court applies a clear test, which is it distinguish between minor defect, which can be fixed later during the DLP, and substantial defect, which genuinely bore practical completion and beneficial use. Applying this principle to our case study, the Syedma outcome is telling. The fact that the project achieved PC after the roofing issues were addressed strongly suggests the defects were in fact minor. The resolution aligns perfectly with the law, which would not allow PC to be withheld for trivial issues. Next, for practical lessons. From this comparative analysis, we can distill several critical practical lessons for contract administration to prevent such disputes. The first one is define term clearly, which is ambiguity is the enemy. Contracts should explicitly clarify what constitutes a minor defect to avoid subjective arguments. The second one is adopt a proactive process, move from a single high-pressure final inspection to rolling snagging inspections, creating a collaborative living punch list. The third one is maintain the right focus. Always apply a consistent fit for purpose test during evaluations, not a checklist for 100% perfection. The fourth one is ensure impartial certification. The contract administrator must certify PC fairly and independently when the legal criteria are met. The fifth one is contractor preparation is key. Contractors should conduct internal pre-PC audits and meticulously document all client cost delays. And the last one is align inspection early. Perhaps more importantly, hold a pre-contract workshop dedicated to PC inspections, procedures, and defect categorization. For conclusion, summary of findings. Based on these findings, we propose targeted recommendations for each project stakeholder to better manage the practical completion process. For employers, three actions are vital. The first one is expedite your approval processes for variations and materials to prevent causing the very delays you wish to avoid. The second one is adopt a commercial and legal view of PC. Seek substantial completion and not flawless perfection. The third one is allow your superintending officer to act independently. Do not use the CPC as a bargaining chip. Meanwhile, for the contractor, the mandate is clear. The first one is document is everything, especially client cost delays and instructions. The second one is must be proactive. Conduct internal pre-PC audits weeks before the due date. And the last one is submit formal detailed PC applications with all supporting documents to set a professional standard. For recommendation, we must institutionalize better practices. The first one is clarify minor defects in the contract itself to remove ambiguity. The second one is implement rolling snagging inspections to create a collaborative living punch list, not a single confrontational final inspection. The third one is hold a pre-contract workshop dedicated to aligning all parties on PC expectations and procedure from the very start. And the last one is ensure the contract administrator certifies impartially, upholding the integrity of the entire process.